Dear Internet, welcome to this day's episode of Deploy Friday. It's Deploy Friday because we believe Friday is the best day to deploy the code you've been working on. Nothing can go wrong if you've got your DevOps story right. So today's a great episode. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. We have esteemed guests from a company based both in India and in the United States called Srijan. We're going to be talking about a Drupal distribution called EzContent that Srijan has built. And we're going to be talking not only about the system and the benefits that it brings to marketers through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a decoupled architecture, but we're also going to be talking about the partnership between Platform.sh and Srijan to bring this system to market in a very sensible hosting environment where you've got a good DevOps story and you can feel good about deploying on Friday. So without any further introduction about the topic, let me introduce my guests. We have Kaur, Vinay KG, and Ishan Mahajan from Srijan. And I'm going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves as well so we know who you are and what your involvement is with Srijan and EzContent is. So Kamal, would you start for us?
Sure, thanks, Robert. So, hi guys. I am Kamalpreet, and I have been working with Srijan Technologies, working on the EzContent since last year. Pretty exciting features to get on, and I am working from Toronto, Canada. So, over to you, Ishan.
Thanks, Kamal. Thanks, Robert, for having all of us here today. Really excited for this conversation. I'm joining from New Jersey today. I've been with Srijan for over 12 years now and currently working as the director consulting and have been closely involved in building the EzContent with the fantastic team here at Srijan. Vinay?
Hey, thanks, Ishan, and thanks, Robert, for the session. Uh, I'm based out of Bangalore. I'm joining from here in India, and I have been associated with Srijan for 6 months here, and my role would largely be to build and scale marketing as a function. Yeah, that's a quick
Fantastic.
intro.
Yeah, that's a great intro. So I think that for anybody listening, the first and foremost question that anybody usually has is, what does this thing do? Maybe, Kamal, would you like to give us a tour of the capabilities of EzContent and tell us just what purpose it serves? What can it do and what business problem does it address? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So, EzContent is a fully featured open source Drupal distribution, which Srijan is working on. This is purely decoupled. This has a lot of features like publishing, out of the box publishing content, many reusable components, out of the box layout builders. But not just this, you have decoupled frameworks built on top of it, right? It's completely headless. So with this, the business logic it addresses is right for the decoupled applications. You get the layout builders and the editing capabilities for the backend editors and the marketers. So this is where we're probably digging in more here in terms of how EzContent can help in terms of publishing content, adding new content, making sure that the decoupled frameworks are behaving properly.
Okay, so maybe I would like to hear a little bit in that case about how the system came about, and also in your in the story about this. I think you missed a feature, at least that I announced, which was the integration with machine learning and AI to help author content, and I think that's one of the very interesting key points. So, Ishan, how did the system come about? What's its history?
Yeah, so as Kamal mentioned, we've been working with Drupal as a CMS for over 10 years now, right? We've always worked with open source technology. Srijan has been working with CMSs for 17 years and always working with various open source technologies. And we've always, over the last 10 years or so, working with different customers, right from startups to enterprises. We've gathered a bunch of, pain points, features, and efficiencies which we believe we can bring to Drupal, right? And I think at least a year and a half ago, we were working with a very large enterprise customer, right? And there we ran into a situation where their developers, right, they didn't have any idea about Drupal, right? But their marketing team had selected Drupal as their CMS of choice, right? They loved Drupal, what it did out of the box, and they loved the whole experience. They chose that CMS. But then when the developers came in, they just said, "Oh, there's just one little bit that we want to mention, that we only work with Angular as a front end framework." So they were like, "Would that be a problem?" Just like, okay, no, Drupal, as some of you might know, Drupal has always taken the API first approach. Drupal can be implemented as a headless CMS as well. But then the marketing team for the customer, they really love, you know, uh, the Drupal's layout builder, for example, right? Drupal 8 came out with a drag and drop experience builder. It's called the layout builder, using which a marketer or essentially any non-developer can quickly create a landing page, right? You can drag and drop, create dynamic regions, put in components, configure the page. They said that's the feature that they love the most. And we said, hey, if you go decouple, I'm sorry, you cannot have this, right? And then if you go decouple, yeah, you can have content preview of unpublished content, but yeah, that would take about a couple of weeks. We can develop that. So that list kept on growing, and the eyebrows started raising. Like, these are simple functionality which I have in WordPress, which I have in Drupal. I've used it for 10 years, and how come I won't compromise on those things, right? And then we started hearing that theme more and more, right? We almost, if you will, we've seen sort of a division in the CMS world, right, where you have developers having an inclination towards certain technologies, primarily JavaScript front-end frameworks, right? They want to work with those newest technologies. And then you have marketers who are not willing to let go of bread and butter CMS functionality, right? And why should they, right? And that's exactly the point where we started building EzContent. And one of the first features we built, the first release, was highly focused on this aspect of bringing this bread and butter CMS functionality that Drupal provides or even WordPress provides to headless implementation. So that was how it all started.
Very interesting. So whereas most headless CMSs take the approach of being pure content stores and not having any opinion about layout whatsoever, you're actually allowing the marketing team within the CMS to make some pre-decisions about layout. How does that work specifically in terms of the interplay between the back end, which would then give an API-driven content experience, the Angular front end, and I think you support other Vue, React type of front ends now as well. So you've got those front end developers who are accustomed to be like 100% in control of what things look like, right? So now you've got two chefs in the kitchen, right? Does that create conflict? And I mean, Vinay, can you answer that question as the marketer? Because, these are your bread and butter features that they're talking about, right?
See, fundamentally what happens is, as a marketer, so it's more to do with our outreach, right? So for me or any marketer, ideally what they would be looking at is faster to go to market. And so this feature of headless decoupled will also help us irrespective of the what tool or the functional features that you have. So as a marketer, I would be able to reach more audience. And it's a cool feature for us. So where I don't have to worry about where am I placing my content, and it equally get distributed across the platforms. So and that's a thumbs up from any marketer's perspective.
Yeah, I think so. And did the Angular team complain about this in any way, or did they think it was great?
So they did. I mean, so initially before, of course, developing this, we looked at existing solutions, right? So there are a lot of different solutions out there. It's a whole spectrum, right? From being completely monolithic or coupled to a completely decoupled system. There's something called progressive decoupling as well, right? Which is very popular in the Drupal world as well, right? Wherein there is a way where you can sort of drop in React or Angular components on a Drupal page, right? that's something that we explored first, right, before building a custom solution and building easy content. But they weren't too happy with that, right, because they were like very strict in terms of they said they were as blunt as saying that our front end developers do not want to learn Drupal, or they don't want to invest any time in learning Drupal or any other CMS technology that's the marketing team is using, right? They just wanted to work with Angular. So that's where, to your question, Robert, the way we've developed this is that you're right. At the end of the day, this is a pure headless solution. So the front end developers control the front end, right? But what we're doing is that the marketing team, whatever layout they're setting, whatever page they're creating using Drupal, all that information is being added to the APIs, right? So you have APIs for content, all the data and the content that has been added to the CMS. All we're doing is we're also adding some additional information about the layout, right? Hey, these are the columns on the page, these are the regions, this is the component they've selected, and this is the front end for this component that the marketers have selected, right? So the Angular developers are able to just consume this additional data and then process it, and to sort of enable adoption of this, we have published. So as Kamal mentioned, this is completely open source. So not just the Drupal distribution that is open source, all our starter kits for Gatsby, Next.js, Angular, and Vue, they are also open source, right? So that's where the developers can get a sense of how they can consume this API and use it on their projects.
Okay, so now again, from maybe a technical perspective, I'd be very curious what the publishing workflow is like. I don't know, maybe Kamal, you want to take this, or Ishan, if you're better suited. I don't know.
No, I'll let Kamal can talk about the preview functionality that we built.
So Kamal, if I'm a marketer and I've made my layout, okay, and I've got some content, and I push publish, what happens from that moment until like somebody sees it on their phone? Because in a Drupal world, I know the answer. Okay, it updates the database, and the next request that comes in is going to generate dynamic content on cleared caches that will show the page the way it's supposed to look. And I understand that model really well. But now we've got this like decoupled layer in there. How does that work?
Sure. So now the moment your marketer hits publish on the Drupal layout, it bombs out on your decoupled frameworks as well. How does it happen, right? So we have a middleware in between. So as Ishan was mentioning, right, it's the whole API-based system. Whatever marketer is publishing, the data is being sent to the middleware, from where the Angular developer or any front-end developer is extracting the information out and making it available to the front ends. So the moment you change, you'll be able to see the life changes on your decoupled end as well. In terms of when you publish changes. However, before publishing changes, there could be another things which you want to do. You might want to preview the functionality altogether. Before when using monolithic or probably legacy CMS features, right? When you said editors or marketers are able to preview things, but with decoupled, right, this functionality was completely lost. But with EzContent, you could still preview, right? We've integrated it in a fashion such that marketers, before publishing any content, would be able to preview it as in how it is looking on their decoupled ends.
So Kamal, this is not a Jamstack system where it generates static pages and sends them out to a CDN. That's not the case, right?
No, so when this is published, right? This is Gatsby, right? Now Gatsby is a static site generator. So at the end, it's creating a static site generation from whatever components, whatever request it's getting. So it's dynamically creating your static site based upon the updated components there. Ishan, feel free to correct me here.
So you can use it as a Jamstack site generator as well if you're using Gatsby for the front end, right? So EzContent will not be responsible for creating the static pages. That's the middleware that and the Gatsby backend. EzContent will be responsible for providing the content for the page and the layout, right? So that's the piece that EzContent provides, but it works very well with Jamstack as well. And to your question about preview, you mentioned, Robert, you're aware of how preview works in Drupal, right? Or how a publisher typically works in Drupal. So for somebody like Vinay or any other marketer, it's actually exactly the same. So what our goal has been, and I think we are very close to that now. If we do a side by side, like if in a browser I open and do a screencast of how would you publish a page on Drupal versus how would you publish a page on EzContent plus Gatsby, it's actually exactly the same. So the preview experience, we've brought that into Drupal's admin interface, so that it's you shouldn't feel like you shouldn't get an inferior experience if you are using a decoupled implementation, right? It's actually the same as you would publish a page on any Drupal site.
Okay.
Honestly, I have seen all the three pages. It looks like just like a three tabs on the same screen, right? So it's not making any difference from a marketer's perspective. So you'll be able to see all the three previews before you ensure that it is going live. Yeah.
Very interesting. So I need to back up for my own understanding, though. So with the Gatsby version, it's a static site generator because that's Gatsby's model. But with React, Vue, and Next, is that right? What you had?
Yeah.
Angular.
The React is the Next.js is the React framework.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not totally my world, so I always have to test my comprehension. So those are more dynamic. So the front end is making API calls in real time and pulling back content and then rendering it in the component. Is that right?
Correct. But again,
okay.
not hitting Drupal. So we've been very careful about the developer experience here. As I said, the way it started, we had front end developers who didn't want to necessarily learn Drupal or the intricacies involved there. So it's still a pure headless implementation, and all the they're actually free to use, right? So we have our middleware which we provide as the starter kit, but the front end developers can have their own middleware as well if they want.
Can you describe that middleware? What do you recommend out of the box? What is that component?
So we have a whole stack as part of the starter kit, which is based out of Node.js. So we have Node.js there, and then as the backend engine, and then we have Redis for caching. I mean, the goal for us is that if you have a dynamic application built on top of EzContent, you shouldn't have to hit Drupal again and again, right? So the only time Drupal comes into the picture is if something changes, right? So if I make a change to the layout, if I publish a new page, that's when Drupal will go and then update the middleware. But the front end applications are always interacting with the middleware, right, and not directly with Drupal.
So you scale the Drupal to the editorial team's needs, and you scale the middleware to the internet's needs.
Exactly.
Okay, and the middleware is something you built from scratch for this purpose.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not like it's not Apollo with GraphQL or anything like that we've been talking about on recent episodes.
We do use GraphQL for the Gatsby version. Yes, but for the others, it's a Node.js based implementation. And then the reason sorry, go ahead.
So it's really flexible, is all I wanted to say.
It is definitely flexible, yes. I mean, but the reason you might want to try the starter kits, and we strongly believe that it's useful for developers to use it, is because Drupal has its own Drupalisms, right? I mean, you have the way for say constructing a page, there are different ways you can do that in Drupal, right? There is a layout builder, there is another popular module called paragraphs, right? So there are a bunch of different options out there in the Drupal world how a page is constructed, right? So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to take care of all of that logic and Drupal specific code, and process that and make sure that from the middleware you're able to get standard APIs, right? API responses. So it doesn't matter whether the page was created using paragraphs or whether the page was built using the layout builder in Drupal. The middleware will take care of it. When the front end developers interact with the middleware, they would not see any difference. They just want to see what content do I need for the page and what is the layout information. For them, they will be completely abstracted from this information as to how this page was constructed in Drupal.
Wonderful. So that's really fascinating. But I still haven't heard about the AI machine learning generated text. Who wants to talk about that? Kamal, you want to tell me about that?
Sure, Robert. So apart from all of these features, EzContent also has some of the AI features like auto tagging, right? Generating image captioning when talking about marketers, right? It's like very difficult for marketers to go and add captions and tags related to all images. So EzContent help you automate that. It will extract the image information using AI algorithms, using Google services, uh, using Google services, and then taking care as in recognizing the image and self captioning it. For example, if it's an image of a pizza, it'll give you the tags like food, pizza, everything else, colors, etc. So the relevant tags would automatically be populated, and hence it becomes very easier for the marketer, and very quicker for the editors to do their work. Yeah, and not just this, probably you'll be also able to search with the help of these intelligent tags, and intelligent search is also possible. So for example, if you search food, it'll, with the help of image, again extraction, it'll be able to search all the food related items, even if it is not tagged by food. So yeah, this is very in terms of very flexible in terms of using these particular features. So this is just one set wherein we are using auto tagging and auto generation of tags and captioning, etc. The second thing talks about generating the transcriptions from the videos. So if editors are uploading videos, right? So they could also generate auto transcripts from their videos and get published on their pages. For many a times, people don't want to go through the whole session of videos, right? And they just want to quickly skim through the transcript. So that's the second part of the features. Then there are podcasts, wherein probably vice versa case, right? The podcast, you can generate podcasts out of your articles. So while you are driving, right, you don't want to read an article, rather listen to the article, right? So the podcast generation is also possible for all the articles here. So yeah, a couple of features, and probably more on how automatically you can generate the content. Ishan, if you want to take that.
So, to add to that, from a marketer's perspective, I would still say the image advertising that Kamal was talking about, right? It also reduces just mentioning image 002 from a marketer's perspective, which is more of SEO friendly, right? So, and a lot of times these are very basics. It's not that nobody knows about it. Either you miss it, or because of the timelines that you have, you tend to skip it. So these functionalities will help, not necessarily to for the person who is working on it to work on himself, or even to skip it. It's easy for them to pick up from an existing tool. And also on the image, this voice, or rather the description or prescription of what we have, right? So the information which gets from a video transcription to a translation. So these are common features for anybody. So I would still be able to consume content in multi formats with ease of technology. So from a help of AI as a functionality here.
And these are things that are essentially built in, provided that I have the right API key from the appropriate Google services.
Or even so, even AWS, right? So we have we've taken a plugin approach, right? So which makes it easier for you to switch between services. So depending on the service provider, so you can have your own custom as well. So Srijan has its own data science team as well, where we have been doing some interesting bespoke implementations for niche use cases where some of these services do not work really well. So whether it's AWS image recognition or Google Vision, all of these are excellent. Of course they have the largest data sets to build their algorithms on top of. So they work really well for, say, a media client, or some use case where you would have different kinds of images, right? And then there might be some niche customers, right, who may have very niche requirements. So one of our clients was a real estate agent, large real estate development agent, and their images were mostly images of apartments, right, or houses, right. So as you can imagine, their captioning requirements were very unique, right. When they're posting
Google's looking for pizza. Where's the pizza?
Yeah, and they want to describe a room, right, whether it's east facing or whether it's sunny and things like that. So there you might want to do something custom. But either way, our approach is, you can switch between different service providers. But as you can tell from what Kamal described, right, and when he described these features, you can tell that we work a lot with media and publishing customers, right, because that's where a lot of these needs came from. and it's not something that just yes, it's important. It reduces some of the grunt work. It brings in efficiencies for the editorial teams, but it's more than that, right? It's actually an accessibility requirement. A lot of states in the US now are coming up with these requirements. I mean, and I think California is probably one of the first, is leading the pack. If you start a lot of the government websites or even university websites, you see that there wouldn't be any video there without a transcription below it, right? So these are things that will become more and more of a requirement going forward. And so accessibility is definitely a really important issue. And then even from an SEO perspective, right, you can't, it's easier for a search engine to sort of index what's there in text, right, rather than what's in a video, right? So that's where all these requirements came in. And
So
then
this is,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, I was saying that it's a very heavy term, right? AI ML based content generation. So it goes from the sort of grunt work, what Vinay was describing, of people naming images as image 0102 rather than something more meaningful, all the way to something what there was a New York Times article a couple of years ago, which says the rise of the robot journalist, right? And it actually claims, it's a pretty interesting article. It actually claims that about 1/3 of the content published by Bloomberg News, and this was in 2019. So 1/3 of content generated by Bloomberg News had some component of AI in it, right? So it was actually generated by a machine, not a journalist, like not a human journalist. So that's the completely different level where we've done some interesting use cases as well.
And the beauty
Very
is
cool.
nobody notices it, whether it's a human or a machine.
Yeah.
Right. So the progress that has happened in this space is huge with AI and ML.
Well, when you're just reporting data, right, then it does seem plausible that a machine could say the stock of Apple rose 2.3% today following the earnings announcement. I can see
That's
that being
exactly
replaced.
that's exactly the use case I was talking about. We did exactly the same use case, Robert, where the website which deals with pensions and investment related news, right? So they would upload these Excel sheets, right? They would get these reports and they would generate these Excel sheets, but then there's no SEO juice in that, right? Whereas every row in that Excel sheet, if that can be converted into a separate web page, right? Even though it's just, as you said, it's just putting out the data, XYZ rose their earnings by X and whatever, but it gives them the opportunity to have another page indexed in search engines and then put advertisements on top of it, right? So these are definitely use cases where there are people doing this manually today, and just a sort of an anecdote. I would digress a little bit, but when we presented this particular case study to another customer, right, and this just goes back to the how heavy this term is, right? AI ML based, like I think it's used a lot. And we were talking about all this complex algorithm, and we were presenting this, and then a lady at that company showed that she's been doing this for over 15 years using Microsoft Excel, right?
Well,
So
who
like
is surprised? Excel is
yeah, I mean,
still the most useful business
exactly,
software
right?
ever created.
She had written all her macros, right? She had built an algorithm using macros. She was generating, her use case was she was generating weather reports, right? So she had, like, between 60 and 70 it's warm, above 80 it's hot, have all these rules there. So that's like, we talk about things as new technologies, but it's people have been doing innovative things using Excel as well. So
Nice. Well, it sounds like compared to a typical Drupal site or a traditional, site. I mean, Drupal started out with just PHP and MySQL, and then it grew to also include things like Redis or Memcache or Solr, maybe now Elasticsearch. Your stack sounds like it's fairly complicated. Who wants to give me a hand-wavy architecture diagram?
I can take a stab at that. So I'll talk about the most complex implementation, right? Like where we are saying we're using EzContent as a completely decoupled architecture, right? So that's where you would of course have the Drupal EzContent distribution as your content CMS. That's where all the content gets authored. That's your typical Drupal MySQL stack, and then you would have a middleware, which is the Node.js based middleware, and then you have a Redis caching layer on that middleware, right? And then you would, if we're talking about something like a Next.js framework, then that's your front end framework, right? So that's the most sort of a 3-tier architecture for an application like that. But then again, it doesn't have to be as complex as that for all use cases. I mean, if you building a headless implementation and having say an X framework does not mean that you always need to have a middleware, right? So that need only arises when we are talking about such use cases where you need to use the layout builder to drag and drop and build pages, and you need all of those functionality. If you don't need all of that, if you're happy with Drupal's form-based content entry and just need basic preview functionality, you don't need to have that middleware. You can directly connect it with the Next.js application. So that also works really well.
All right.
So there's definitely flexibility there.
Which leads me then to the already announced partnership between Platform.sh and Srijan to host instances of EzContent with architecture. I know the answer already, but I would love to hear it from you guys. Why us? Why did you choose us?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot with enterprise customers, right? And in the Drupal world, we've already we have partnerships with Platform.sh and all the sort of platform as a service providers, right? And you have very mature installation steps where you can do like a one-click deployment. Even if somebody wants to evaluate, right, Drupal, right, or any Drupal distribution, you have one-click installations. You can just quickly spin up a new instance, try it out, right? But when it comes to something like EzContent, where you have this 3-tier architecture, you have Drupal, then you have a Node.js middleware, then you have a front-end framework such as Gatsby or Next.js. We're looking for platforms that could support this complex architecture, right, and still provide the same experience of a one-click deployment or a one-click installation, right? If we have to spin up a sandbox for our sales team or for our customers to evaluate the solution, right? And that's where with Platform SH, you have the ability to support not just Drupal but many other languages and frameworks, right, and technologies. So we did we reached out to the Platform team and formed a joint team to do a quick proof of concept to see if this is something that's feasible. And in a couple of weeks' time, we were able to do that. And we're really looking forward to providing this ability to our customers of trying out EzContent end to end, not just the Drupal piece, but the entire Drupal EzContent experience on a single platform. And then that also gives them the assurance of having an enterprise level support structure, right? Because we can't go to them and say, hey, you have a enterprise level support, but that will only look at Drupal, right? And then that just becomes a blocker for them, right, from adopting this, right?
Right. Okay. And if somebody wants to try EzContent now, what's the best way to do that?
So right now, the best way, if you're a developer, the best way would be to go to Drupal.org and search for the EzContent project. There you will find the links to either do the pure Drupal installation, if that's something that you're looking at, or if you're looking for a decoupled implementation, you can. There are links to the Gatsby, Next.js, and Vue.js starter kits to download the code and install the demo sites on your local system. The other way is you can, of course, reach out to the Srijan team. That is, if you look at search for Srijan EzContent, there is a contact information there. You can fill out a form and we can set up a demo for you and give you an access as well. So those are the two ways right now you can do this. Of course, we are excited for a third way potentially very soon, where we might be able to give you the try on Platform.sh button, right? And you would be able to do the demo, get access to a demo site on your own. But that's something that we will be working on shortly.
Right. So that's not published yet, but we're going to get that out the door hopefully very soon. And then you can do a one-click installation. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you have any concept of the roadmap? Is there something exciting that customers are driving you to add, or that you've decided to target? What does the future look like?
Kamal, do you want to talk about some of the immediate items, and then I can.
Sure. Sure. So the most features right now we're looking at the component library, right? EzContent offers you a lot of components for the editors to add. The components which ship out of the box with EzContent, like cards, heroes, uh, quotes, FAQs, etc. So we're actually building up on more components so that editors have more choice to choose from the components listing, etc. And then probably we're also building up more features uh, for AI based editors there. And yeah, Ishan, probably you could carry on with the list.
Yeah, I mean, like Kamal mentioned, our goal is to keep on enhancing the existing feature set that's there in EzContent. But what we're also exploring right now at a sort of broader level is also look at a couple of other CMSs as well, to see if we can bring the similar concept to other headless CMSs out there as well. So that's just initial stages right now, but that's a parallel thought as well. But yeah, and then of course from a AI and machine learning perspective, I think our goal is to sort of understand more use cases from our customers, and focus in on some of the niche use cases, as I mentioned, right? So beyond the auto tagging and all the services that we're using from Google and AWS, we are sort of looking at some custom use cases for customers who need a bit more, right? Especially from a AI content generation perspective, right?
Personalized data could be that's what we might reach to, right? You might want to have a personalized kind of a data, all personalized kind using all AI techniques, as in what your interests are, what your geographies are, etc. So that could be another AI feature which we might look upon very soon.
Interesting. Ishan, did I understand that you might, for example, be interested in making an EzContent for WordPress? Is that how I should understand that? Or
yes, it's not for
Contentful?
Yes. So there are a couple of CMSs. We are still sort of we haven't decided which one to pursue, so we are just doing some proof of concept right now. But it's exactly on the lines of we're looking at Contentful right now, and a couple of others as well, right?
Prismic, probably.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Strappy, we've talked to the Strappy people quite a bit on this show. That keeps it more in the open source and self-hosted.
Exactly. Yes.
Area, and actually Platform.sh would then be able to give you a starter kit where it's Strappy and EzContent.
Yep.
Just a suggestion. Okay, and is that customer driven, or are you trying to define a market?
It's kind of both. I mean, the market, yes, we have been seeing this need, as I mentioned, this sort of a bit of a tension, or this division in the CMS world it applies across all CMSs, right? It's not something that's unique to Drupal. It's actually more relevant for pure headless CMSs out there, right? So we definitely see a market need for having this kind of a middleware or product which sort of brings back the bread and butter features. And let's not look at content editor's role in the CMS just as data entry or content entry, right? There are a lot of other KPIs associated with, Vinay, for example, does not care only about the content that goes on the site, but he wants control of the experience as well, right? He has responsibilities when it comes to SEO performance, accessibility, and things like that. So yeah, we definitely feel there's a market out there, which is not unique to Drupal. So yeah.
So EzContent, I should understand, is more the middleware in this case than the front end.
Think of it as a reference architecture, right? Where you can replace Drupal with another CMS as well.
Great. Somebody's getting a lot of static on the call. Vinay, I thought you had something you wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, I was about to say that some of these discussions are in the directions of any marketer, right? So end of the day, anything that can save time, resource, or flexibility and to get to the ROI, so faster time to market. So, and most of these discussions are in this direction. So I just wanted to add to that when Ishan was mentioning about the upcoming features and collaborations. Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I can't really tell. Kamal, I think maybe your microphone's rubbing. Sorry, technical detail, but it's quite loud. Vinay, I wanted to ask you actually, if like, imagine you had the whole world as your audience right now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, we do have the whole world as our audience. Anybody could be watching this if the right editorial team or technical decider from some company out there is listening, and you had a message for them that would like identify them as, yes, 100% you're the one who needs easy content more than anybody else on earth. What's that message? How do you talk to them to like really tell them, yes, this is the system for you?
See, there are three things that I can talk about, Robert. So one, this uh, tool can help in looking at two perspectives, right? So for a marketer, so I'll have to go with multi-channel outreach, whereas the customer has to have an omni-channel experience. So it can provide that part of the conversations, and then most of the times we are talking about quick time to market. So the features that we were discussing, from headless to API integrations to becoming a mobile first, and then there is also language support and all of these, right? So these would largely help any marketer who's watching this, to look at that these are not silos, and there is one particular system which can help you to drive this conversation. And it's also about expanding into global market, like Ishan was talking about. It's not just about a feature or a functionality. There is any work that the marketers are doing today, it's mostly tacked towards an ROI, right? So when I say ROI, it's not just about running the campaigns. There is a time associated with it, there is an effort to it. So there are certain areas of any marketer is taken care when we look at the features and functionalities here. So sometimes it's more about and flexibility, and sometimes it's about freedom. When I say freedom, it's not necessary that every time I'll have to depend on a developer to do the job. So because if it is monotonous, a lot of things will be taken care on its own. And then it also helps us to get into the creativity part of it. So where some of the day-to-day tasks are taken care by the tool, then the marketers can focus on the flexibility and the creativity part of it. So this is in a nutshell.
Great. That was a perfect answer to the question. Thank you. It was a kind of an odd question, but you handled it brilliantly. So Srijan has been around for a while, and you've worked with a number of technologies, I know, but you've always been very present from my point of view within the Drupal community. Who wants to tell me like your long and great history with Drupal and where you see Drupal in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, so I can talk about Srijan. So we've been, as I said, in the business for over 17 years. We like to call ourselves as a full stack digital experience company, right? So we are a digital experience or digital engineering services company primarily, right? And when it comes to Drupal, we're very proud of being part of the community and contributing to the community. So I know the sort of marketplace rankings always sort of keep on changing on a weekly basis, but we've been proud of always being there amongst the top 10, right, in terms of the number of contributions, right? And then of course we've been a long-term partner of Drupal Association, been there sponsoring all Drupal cons since 2012, I believe. So that definitely very heavily involved in the community, right from the local communities where our offices are located to the global events as well. So that's something. I mean, in terms of where we see Drupal evolving and where our customers are evolving, I think a lot. There has been a lot of talk about headless and decoupled. We've been talking about that a lot today as well. And if you pick up any Drupal, if you look at the agenda of any Drupal camp or conference for the last 4 years, I would say you'll see a lot of sessions and topics related to decoupled and headless. But to be honest, I wouldn't say we are seeing the same ratio when it comes to our customers. So it definitely it's a popular topic, but it's not something that I think there's still a market out there for a Drupal pure as a pure monolithic implementation as well, right? So we are definitely from an EzContent perspective. That's why we support both, right? So you can use EzContent as a Drupal front end as well.
And what are the other technologies that you're currently very deeply involved with?
So we have a very strong platform modernization team at Srijan as well. So we are working a lot with different API providers. We're partners with Apigee as well. And so our team, we work with a lot of digital transformation projects as well, right? Which are not sort of your CMS or digital experience projects, but purely for taking customers with the large enterprise level applications to the cloud, right? To a multi-cloud environment. So those sort of application modernization initiatives is something that we are heavily involved in as well. So that's a sort of a separate team that takes care of it at Srijan. So that's one of the other areas where we work a lot in.
Okay, and obviously you have some very strong Node.js competence as well.
Yes. So we have a very strong JavaScript practice overall, where we built a lot of bespoke applications as well. So Node.js is definitely a big part of it.
Okay, and do you see that changing? I mean, there's so many incredible buzzwords out there, sometimes grabbing all of the media attention. Personally, right now, I'm very interested in decentralized internet, and you don't have to step very far in that direction before getting to things like blockchain. And obviously, Jamstack has taken the world. Single page applications deploy on Cloudflare, be done. So easy, so simple. Is that really where the world's going from your point of view?
From a developer point of view, yes. But again, I think it always happens. I think the enterprises are always slower to adopt these kind of things. So we definitely see a lot of interest, a lot of proof of concepts. But again, when it comes to large scale implementation, we are still seeing sort of Drupal, or we see a lot of AEM, Adobe out there, right? So if that personally, I feel there's a difference between there's a lot of enthusiasm, noise in the developer community, but we're not seeing it translated yet in the enterprise space. But I think that's only natural. I think they're always slower to move, right? Because of the legacy systems involved and the legacy teams involved, right? There's too much and too many applications for them to move that quickly, right?
Cool, thank you.
And a lot of these are happening not at the core level. It's mostly on the peripherals. So some of these technologies are taking shape in the peripherals level, and as Ishan mentioned, it would largely take time to get into the core of the systems.
So you do see it as the directions shifting, but the mainstream adoption is yet to come. But then that just makes it a big market opportunity, right? Go ahead, Kamal.
Sorry. So I was just saying, but then, we have another stream which we, AI and ML, right? We've integrated it with EzContent as well. So some part of Srijan expertise and team is also working on AI and ML basics, right? So just wanted to highlight it where this is coming from in terms of EzContent as well. Yeah. So giving technical guidance to the team in terms of implementing practices and providing all kinds of learning and growth path for all of these sources.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I just had a question, but it flew my mind, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. Have we missed anything? Oh, I did have a question. Okay, got it. My old favorite question: how does search work on EzContent? If I'm on the front end, the browser side, like maybe in a mobile app or a mobile browser, PWA or SPA or whatever, and I want to search the content. Where does that hit?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because again, implemented it in different ways. For Drupal, of course, you have a very strong search API ecosystem. There's a module suite under the name Search API, which lets you use different search engines in the backend, like you could use Solar or Elasticsearch. And for the front end, again, we are seeing an increased adoption. So EzContent comes with a bunch of different connectors which you can use, but it doesn't really come with any default search provider. So it's up to you what you want to use. So what we are seeing, there is a increase in a lot of third-party search engines, right? So like services like Angolia, we are seeing a lot of increased adoption for those, right? So you can, of course, do your own. If you're implementing something like Solar, you have a lot more control over your search results, right? But then you would have to build your own facets and things like that on top of it. Whereas out of the box services like Angolia, if you're okay with indexing your content on those third-party services, they can give you a good head start, right? So it's very flexible in that respect. You could use any of the search providers. We don't come with anything out of the box, right? Of course, you can use Drupal's out of the box search, but that's not really something that scales that well. So, yeah.
So it is possible to use all of Drupal's search capabilities as the search. So you could use Elasticsearch or Solar.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Just checking because Platform.sh supports both of those.
That's something for us to
I have
keep
to
in mind.
ask.
Yeah.
Have to ask those, and I love search. I was the Google Summer of Code mentor for Thomas Zeidel, who created the search API for Drupal. So I've followed that from the beginning, and love to see it get used. Love to see it still contributing great value to the Drupal ecosystem. Yeah. What else? Have we missed anything in the episode? Is there anything that you were just waiting for Robert to get to and Robert just didn't get there?
No, I think what we did, I do want to mention that it is a Drupal EzContent is a Drupal distribution, right? So we've talked about two themes which are of course very interesting and which sort of differentiates EzContent from other distributors out there, which is the support for decoupled and then some of the AI/ML capabilities. But the distribution comes with a lot of other features as well, right? So what Kamal touched upon, I think, when she's talking about components, right? So what we're using it at Srijan at least is we're using it as a starter kit for a lot of the projects, right? To basically get to market faster, right? So we built a component library, which are sort of commonly used components that you would use on typical marketing sites, and we are just continuously increasing that library and contributing more components to it as we deliver projects, right? So that way we are able to bring in these features out of the box. And so I think when you're looking at EzContent, you should look at some of these features as well. It's not just the architecture or the AI/ML things, which are, of course, we want to talk about them, but that's not the only reason why people use EzContent.
So the first and foremost reason is because it's a damn good publishing system, is what you're saying.
Yes, which is that's Drupal's strength, right? So there's we've sort of put in all the best modules out there, contributed modules out there in the Drupal community. We package them together, right? And then we have a few of our custom modules as well, and some our sort of opinion, right? It's an opinionated distribution on which is the best Drupal module out there to build a landing page, for example, or what should you use for building a photo gallery and things like that. So we've taken a strong opinion there. But yeah, exactly as you said, first and foremost, it is a publishing platform which comes with a lot of out of the box functionality to accelerate Drupal projects.
It's really fascinating to me, and you'll probably have your own view on this, all three of you being in this industry for quite a long time now. We're solving the same problems now that we were solving 15 years ago. Photo galleries, landing pages, blogs. And we've solved them 20 different ways in the meantime, but we're still searching for the best way. And I can actually confirm as a marketer myself with music projects that I market, I went looking for a landing page solution, and finding one that had the flexibility, the ease of use, and the price point that I was looking for was really hard. So there was a huge spectrum of pay more and get more, or work harder and get more. But like, you know, that like sweet spot of like, Rob doesn't have to learn a whole lot of new stuff and can do great things. That was still really hard to find still after all of these years. Landing pages, it should be easy, right?
Yeah. And it's the, you know, the good thing about Drupal being open source, and it's also sometimes it becomes hard for people to navigate, right? Even new developers, right? So when we have new developers joining Srijan, you know, who are sort of learning Drupal and getting experience, it's hard to navigate, right? Like there are 10 or maybe even 20, 30 different ways of doing something. Even building a landing page in Drupal, there are a lot of different options. So yeah, there's always this, and it's not that, you know, there's only one good way of doing things. It's just that, you know, with something like EzContent, at least you're able to see something, right? Because out of the box, we know Drupal does not offer that much, right? And you know, when you do a vanilla distribution, there isn't a lot that you see, right? So it's really important for us to, because we get this question all the time, right? That, you know, what is Drupal? You know, can you show us Drupal? And you know,
my dad still asks me, by the way.
Yeah. So you know, it's at that point you have to give at least, you know, I think it's important to have an opinion, and it's okay to pick one or two approaches that you feel. Of course, you know, nobody's saying that, you know, this is the approach that's going to work for all use cases, right? But at least you can have something out of the box which you can show people.
Cool.
And indeed,
go ahead, Vinay.
yeah, indeed, it has helped us to accelerate some of implementation cycle. So that's one point that you can look at. So as Ishan was mentioning, there is something which is already pre-built. So on top of it, it is easy to take it forward. And in fact, many of the conversations that we have been having happening with the customers, it's opening doors, and all the conversations starts with EzContent in many cases.
Okay.
Yeah. So
makes sense.
And probably, you know, when you use vanilla Drupal, right, it's just you'll have to upgrade all modules and maintain all the modules. When you use EzContent, on the other hand, you know, it's managed and backed up by the team who actually upgrades and maintains it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a super important point. And one thing that we try to help with at Platform.sh is that exactly that upgrade path. So, and in EzContent's case, it's not just the upgrade of Drupal, which is already, you know, a big enough composer JSON file that, you know, you kind of like start getting gray hairs looking at it, right? But then you've got in the separate project, the middleware, you've got npm install, and that downloads the other half of the internet before it gets set up, right? So you benefit from all of these updates when you stay tied to the upstream from Srijan's distribution of EzContent. And just to complete the advertisement for Platform.sh, if you use our source operations feature, you can automate the pulling in of the newest version and putting that onto a test branch so that you can see that the updates work on a copy of your system. And you can automate all of that because that's also ROI, right, Vinay? That's, you know, it's not just the marketers who are expensive and their time's precious. It's all like your development team. Their time is expensive and precious too. And like automating the upgrades and getting, you know, expert help upstream from that is also a great value. Well, hey, with that incredible advertisement, I think we can probably call it a show. Thank you so much, Kamal, Vinay, Ishan, for coming on talking about EzContent. I have a much better understanding of everything that it's good for and what it can do, and I'm more excited than I was before that we're working together on bringing that to the market with you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you are catching the show after the fact, then reach out to us on social media and ask any questions that you have. And see you next week, when it will once again be the best day of the week to deploy all that code you're working on, Deploy Friday. Thank you very much. Till then.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, great show. Thank you. Bye.